The dynamics of mantra dharana. A sound is the world machine's perception of a particular kind of phenomenon, of a set of operators in action, of a dimensional plane of perception held. So I say here, each sound and alphabet are referred to an aspect of the world mathematical machine perception. Plausible associations include vowels or be perceptions of movement when the active set of vectors scanned um, undergoes particular transformations, such as perhaps rotation on a plane, absorption and projection across zeros, and so on. So I write here, these are plausible associations, needn't be totally accurate. Plausible associations of vowels are with the form of movement patterns across zeros. The Sanskrit A with a projection-rejection pathway movement down toward the 0, 0. E with the spin of a dimensional order. U has the space holding U as a space holding projection-rejection generating, thus a higher spatial NQ. The Sanskrit vowel A as a dimensional spatial evolution across zeros toward the higher zeros or down toward the lower zeros are the perceptions of this pathway. R as perception of the way vector holding states alter across perception directions of the world machine, and the perception is held from the view of the world machine axis. The awareness alteration of vector states, that is greatly on a zero. Don't bother about this too much. Each sound does not have an ideal 2D form. It's 2D projection itself. The geometry of the world machine and the sound that the awareness associates with the geometry are not two distinct things. It could be a geometry and or a transformation associated with that geometry. Because vowels have a dynamic quality, it indicates a transformation from a state to another. While consonants could be thought of as um, indicating geometry, but without dynamism, it seems it is not possible to articulate the sound. Perhaps such a movement is needed for the awareness to perceive the world machine. It seems there is a continual projection and absorption across dimensional planes. Um, the projection is somehow indicated by the sound R in one of its aspects, in one of its directionalities. Then it's decay, that it's disappearance, a process of blinking of awareness on a dimensional plane. These together seem to form the world phenomenon, and that's why alphabets are often associated with the foundational nature of world phenomenon, and a term for alphabets is akshara, meaning that which does not decay in the surface sense, but it is made of two parts, A and kshara, the projection and the absorption, blinking. So in the sense, a projection and then decay, absorption. This then speaks of the possibility of a purely symbolic alphabet for Sanskrit. A purely symbolic alphabet because we are dealing with geometries and transformations of geometries. An initial attempt for the word Agni, the first word of Rig Veda, is shown in the background image. don't take it too seriously, but it could be something along the lines. I've written the sound A as an arrow, G as the angular form, that is also the Brahmi form of Ga, and N as an axis, and E as the rotation around the axis, which takes this form of a kind of a sinusoidal wave of a I would say three-dimensional nature, but it is more sophisticated than that, more sophisticated than that, more sophisticated than what this discussion would allow. Here's another example, a possibility for the Sanskrit sound. I've drawn a spherical surface below, a 3D spherical surface, and then the form which looks like a kind of a infinity symbol, the symbol also of the caduceus, that is uh, indicative of dimensional spaces evolving upwards. So because the evolution continues, structuring, I have used the word, I have used the symbol of an arrow. So the sound, if you look at the Sanskrit word, ancient Sanskrit word for structuring of dimensions, it was thanam. So the tha, the sound tha indicates formation of these spatial structures. N is the axis, n is this formation proceeding from the 0, upwards. 0, are symbolized by a 3D spherical surface at the lower portion of the screen. The whole of the thing did not appear in the image when I made the background. In the same token, what you see in the background is a possible form for the sound ele. E as the form on the left, L as the form on the top right, A as the inverted triangle form that you see there. So Agnim ele is how the Rigveda starts. These processes, which appear as geometry, as perception of geometry in the world machine, is also giving forth a sense of meaning. And that sense of meaning is occurring in the super universal planes, in that which is beyond. Some traditions, I believe, call it the avyakta. So that needs to be understood. What the mechanics of it, what the dynamics of it are in the beyond world machine. What is it that the world machine is allowing a view into? What brings forth its sense, meaning, potentialities, and so forth? What is its meaning in the world geometrical vector play, so to speak? Thus, an alphabetic code with vowels is a geometry transformation, a functional map, and what functions is a machine. Geometry has meaning perception as well, and unveils perception by unveiling the beyond appeared. What is also important to this particular form of study is the understanding of what has already been mentioned and the ability to transform perception gained by focused analysis of the alphabetic geometry and functional transformations until and okay alphabetical geometry and functional transformations underlying aspects, sense, and mechanics in the beyond appeared universe. For instance, the word Agni again. Agni's perception of itself in a vector space needs a hyperconjugate space. The hyperconjugate space a kind of reflected space, so to speak, which is again involved in the construction of dimensions, and also through this reflection conjugation held in a potentiality that is Cuba universe, Agni gains uh, a higher order structured view of oneself. So this particular sense of conjugation itself is the operator. For instance, the form of the swastika operator is not different from the sense of the conjugation. When you say vector, a vector in its conjugate space operated together, that operator that appears is non-different from the sense of these two vectors held at the 0 point and the associated inner perception in the beyond appeared. So that is why the operator has to have that 0 point centrally, whether it is the swastika operator or the multiplication operator or the addition operator. There is always a sense of the 0 point perception intensified, the 0 point being at the center. The Agni's union of form and awareness, and the only awareness of Agni being present, and the only awareness of Agni being of Agni itself. That is the point at which the awareness begins to understand space and itself and space, the ability to hold space, the ability to function in the world machine. Hence, even as per the first verse of the other Veda, that is the ability that is sought. First verse of a particular recension of the other Veda. And I say here, since form and imagination are in two different things, this conjugate form can as well be a mathematically reflect functionally mapped phantasmagoria. But then whatever is geometry is that. But the point is only there is a singular awareness and conjugate spaces and 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 a conjugate space which is again n-dimensional. So this becomes like the form of the again the caduceus. But each of those circles that are formed in the caduceus are to be thought of higher dimensional and higher dimensional as one goes up the axis of the caduceus, which is why possibly they do not close the topmost axis in symbolism because it theoretically it continues. Though in a perceiving anthropic system, it may be said to find a kind of closure, a notion of closure due to the geometry of scan, say at the sixth dimension or the seventh dimension and so forth, which is why the human tends to perceive generally seven chakras, but there are higher order chakras too. The sixth order chakra transformation corresponds to the solar, seventh to the galactic center, and then there is the not so easily perceived eighth order, because the galactic systems as superpositions of surface phenomenon of an eighth order system are in transformation. So the eighth order system is also in transformation, and therefore there's a ninth order zero too. The awareness can hold a space in higher order zeros at the same time enter its rejection aspects, the surfaces, as in abide that, because it was constructed from the zeroth order zero and upward. The zero becomes the foundation, and at the same time it can perceive the higher dimensions. The surface and its reflection across the surface across the zero plane needs symmetric transformation. And when the intensities on lower order spaces are altered, higher order geometries are altered. As lower order spin keeps generating spatial intensities, higher order space seems to evolve as well, and the phenomenon of the sorts is the origin of force. Agnim Ile is the projection of world space into the zero, Agnim. That is the process and of projection, Agnim, and the alteration of vectors by the awareness dynamics suggested, Ile. That is the process that continues within the zero. This happens across all zero domains with the pinning of two potentialities, two poles, as one enters a particular zero. In the zeroth order zero, um, it has its own properties. Uh, we'll discover that afterwards. As the vectors within the zeroth order zero are but the world vectors in another view, this alteration of world, this enables alteration of world configurations, timelines, and so forth. Thus, a planar machine, a symbiotic um, system with the awareness vector set, a machine can be generated by a blueprint available to the awareness. This blueprint is expanded out. It acts as a sort of a view filter, a potentiality holder acting on the zero space. And this allows the awareness to hold vector systems within the zero space and thereby influence the world system as well. It might appear as a superpower ability or um, an innate potential brought forth, or it could be at play with outward machines as well. Anyway, the blueprints and ideas are necessarily exist in the beyond, in the Platonic sense, if the awareness views it. I mean, in the sense of even usual world machines that are designed. The awareness could not have made it up unless the potentiality of the blueprint was already there. Or the blueprint was already there. One could almost or equivalently say blueprint was already there. Theoretically, that implies an idea can be brought to life. Well, practically, humans do that all the time. The point is that it could be brought to life without peripheral action as well. An aspect of such a machine, understood in the imagination, the faculty that takes the beyond sense, devoid of direction sense, and maps it into directional senses, vector space artifacts, geometries, and views, may thus be brought into actual being if the zero alteration of vectors is understood. And that is, a blueprint can, in the theoretical sense, be brought directly to life if the awareness understands the way to hold the blueprint in the zero space. A zero-held functional transformation geometry is a world transformation principle, a world machine transformation, a subset of the functioning possibilities of the world machine. Templates exist in the world machine that can be brought into existence instantaneously by the awareness that gains access to it through a world geometry view of it.